Today, we are going to be introducing two brand new operators and a rework on an iconic map as a part of this entirely viewer-submitted concept video for Operation Red Thunder. Both operators and the map were submitted over on my Discord server, which I urge you guys to join with the link in the description if you have any ideas of your own, or you just want to join a gaming community that we're growing by the day. Aside from that, let's take a look at what Operation Red Thunder has to offer. We'll start by taking a look at this season's attacker, Luska. Full credit goes to Pirate King for this operator, by the way. He did a great job with this concept. Henrik Luska Jensen hails from the Bahamas, where he was the son of a pirate and spent his time on the sea, hence being named after the folktale sea monster of the Caribbean. The American Navy SEAL Blackbeard would eventually stumble upon Luska in the Caribbean and go on to adopt him to get him out of his life as a pirate, and he would eventually go on to train Luska to become a Navy SEAL. Before long, Luska would join Nighthaven where he is today. Basically, Luska is a strong attacker version of a trapping operator. He has an underbarrel launcher, similar to Nomad or Buck, that shoots out a motion-activated titanium wire net, which will effectively trap and ensnare any defenders who walk into its radius. So you could essentially imagine it as a heavy-duty fishnet with motion sensors. The technical name of these nets are Kinetic Automatic Keeper Nets, or KAKNs for short. The device will only work if the defender walks in front of the KAKN, so it won't trap them if they walk behind it. Whichever way you are facing when you shoot with the KAKN launcher will also be the direction that the front is facing when it's deployed. You only get 3 mines per round, so you'll have to play strategically to make the 3 mines count, since placement is so crucial. The radius reaches out 15 feet in length, or about 4.5 meters, and is the width and height of a single door frame. The closer you are to the anchor point, the easier it is for the defender to be caught. The net moves at the same speed as an Oryx dash, so it is fast, but you could technically move out of the way if you do it in time. Now when it actually catches an unlucky defender, it will very slowly drag them towards the KAKN's anchor point, and a defender will be able to free themselves from the net by cutting themselves out with a 6-second animation. But this is only before they are 1/4 of the way to the anchor point. When the wire passes the 1/4 marker of its length and resistance, the titanium wire becomes too tight to cut, and the fate of the unlucky defender is no longer decided by themselves. Now there are a few possibilities from this point forward. They can either 1. Have a teammate cut them out from the wire, which would expose both the trapped defender and the defender cutting, or they could 2. Have their teammate shoot out the anchor point, resulting in them being freed. This isn't always the easier option, however, because it can be difficult to locate the anchor points. They are only the size of Ella's Grismont mines, so they aren't necessarily sticking out. There is a third possibility as well, which is if 1 and 2 don't work out, when the trapped operator fully reaches the anchor point after being slowly dragged closer, they will receive 5 tick damage due to the persistent tightening of the titanium wire net. In a balancing effort, the net will not do any further damage when the victim reaches 25 HP to simulate basically being downed. I love this idea just because of how entirely different it is from anything we've ever seen. Aside from Frost, who is much more anticlimactic than this, we've never seen a trapper that literally traps people. The gadget works much better in open areas because if a defender gets caught and is stopped by an unbreakable object while being dragged, it won't be able to drag them all the way to the anchor point, and then they will be able to cut themselves free. So they can't be dragged through hard objects such as furniture, but they can be dragged through soft objects like barricades and soft walls. So theoretically, you could punch a hole through a wall, shoot your KAKN on the ground so that its radius goes through the hole, and then an unlucky defender that runs in front of the hole could get dragged through to the other side, breaking the soft wall. You could also shoot a mine at the ground on the outside of a barricade to stop a runout. Then, when a defender runs over towards a barricade to run out, the net will grab them through the barricade. If it's a door, then they will be dragged through the barricade and outside to the anchor point. If it's a window, they will be dragged to the interior base of the window and stop there. One thing I haven't even touched on yet, which also makes this operator really interesting, is that the traps can suspend opponents into the air. If you shoot a trap onto the ceiling, or maybe on top of a hatch or something like that, it creates a radius about the size of a mute jammer on the floor below it, and the mechanic remains unchanged, so it will slowly drag the opponent toward the anchor point, which happens to be on the ceiling. The only difference is that it will only suspend the defenders 3 feet off the ground due to the dead weight of a trapped operator, so it won't drag them all the way up, but it will deal tick damage after the animation stops and after you're given the prompt to cut free. For balancing purposes, the mines will make a smoke detector beep every 25 seconds so that the defenders have some way to know that it's there. Direct counters would be destroying it with explosives or bullets and anti-gadget devices such as Jaeger's ADSs, Wamai's magnet systems, Mute's jammers, and Tuberal's Zodo canisters. Now in terms of loadout, Luska brings brand new weapons to the game, which is super exciting. The first primary is his most desirable weapon, which is the Marlin C4570, which is a lever action DMR. The second option is the MKH308. As for secondary guns, Luska has the Deagle and the Bailiff, and for secondary gadgets, he brings hard breach charges and claymores. Lastly, Luska is a 2 armor, 2 speed operator, and again, 100% of the credit for Luska goes to Pirate King. Now, we're going to move on to Operation Red Thunder's defender, Mjolnir. This operator was entirely designed and brainstormed by Grumpy, so let's take a look at what he has in store. Emma Mjolnir Rongstad is a girl from a very wealthy Norwegian family who discovered her passion for combat after her mandatory conscription and would go on to willingly pursue a military career after her service time. She has since joined the Red Hammer Squad with Team Rainbow to display this passion for combat, resulting in her family being very unhappy with her life and career decisions. Mjolnir is an anchor and trapper defender, making Operation Red Thunder a very trapper-heavy operation in general. Mjolnir's gadgets are called Electro Snare Bolas, which are devices that dig themselves into the ground and patiently waits for a hostile to approach. If they're thrown at a wall or some surface that isn't the direct floor, it will fall onto the floor regardless, as that is how the bolas become effective. Although they dig into the ground, they will stick out slightly, making them somewhat visible to opponents. They can obviously be shot or destroyed if noticed before an attacker walks into its range. Now, when an attacker does walk into the bola's range, it will jump out of the ground and latch itself onto the attacker. After 4 seconds, the device will begin shocking the attacker and quickly dealing 10 damage per second until the hostile pulls out the bola, with a similar animation to removing Legion's goo mines. Not only will the device deal swift damage when latched, but it will also trap the attackers into a small 5 meter or roughly 16-foot radius with an electric rope that they cannot escape from, meaning they aren't only taking a hit to their health, but they're also putting themselves at risk of getting shot by being stuck in a single 5 meter position. Mjolnir's gadgets are on a recharge, similar to Legion's goo mines or Azami's Kiba barriers. So you'll spawn in the round with 1 available, and then will get an additional bola every 30 seconds, until you reach the maximum per round, which is 4 bolas. I would imagine for the bolas to have similar projectile physics and size to one of Cade's Electroclaws for reference. They don't necessarily have to be set up during the preparation phase for you to wait for someone to walk into them. You can also technically directly throw the bolas at an attacker. If this does happen and the bola goes directly into the opponent, the 4-second delay before damage is dealt is slightly shorter and the lockup radius is marginally larger. Mjolnir is just overall a really exciting operator that introduces a new take and interpretation on trappers. I could see the bolas being strong in a surplus of situations, making her a decently evergreen operator that would probably have a high pick rate. She's useful in slowing down a rush if placed in common objective entry points. She's also useful in countering the plant. You could place a bola in the default plant spots during the preparation phase, but you could also hold on to one and throw it where the attackers are planning later on in the round if you have that callout. Placing the bolas in key positioning points around an objective and having callouts with your team's roamers or lurkers that could push these attackers when they are trapped is a key point of Mjolnir. Similarly to Luska, although Mjolnir's gadget isn't primarily used to kill opponents necessarily, it is very strong in its ability to throw off the positioning of hostiles, which you can then take advantage of. Now for her loadout, Mjolnir is certainly powerful. For primaries, she brings the 416C carbine and the FO12 shotgun. Although these aren't new or groundbreaking weapons, they fit her playstyle perfectly. For secondary, she has the USP-40 pistol, and for secondary gadgets, she brings a deployable shield and barbed wire. Lastly, Mjolnir is a 3 armor, 1 speed operator designed to be a hard anchor. Thanks so much to Grumpy for the submission. Now let's take a look at Operation Red Thunder's map. This map idea was also submitted by Luska's brainstormer, Pirate King. It's essentially a complete rework on Yacht, and it would hopefully make it playable in the ranked playlist, and it brings in some relevant lore as well. Essentially, Yacht is being reimagined into a weapons transport ship used by the Key-Res Legion. With Yacht becoming more ship-like rather than yacht-like, it will hopefully open up the floor plan and allow for viable objective locations and make it enjoyable for competitive gameplay, rather than the closed off and awkward arrangement that Yacht has now in the quick match playlist. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to join that Discord server link in the description if you guys have any ideas or you just want to come be a fly on the wall. We'd love to have you either way. Thanks so much to Pirate King and Grumpy for their ideas and their artwork designs for Operation Red Thunder. Don't hesitate to ask questions in the comments, as I'm sure if I can't answer your questions, one of the original designers will be able to. Just as a shout out, Grumpy does have a Fiverr page for his designs. If you guys are at all interested, definitely go check him out. He is the best in the business. And besides for that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.